Good morning, everyone. She's going to hate me for doing this, but we're going to wait for President Sirleaf. She's on her way. I know when she comes in, she's going to say, "Why did you wait? You could have gotten started." But I've been advised that we should just wait. It's just a couple of minutes, but she's already on her way. Everyone, can we get on our feet as we welcome President Sirleaf, our founder and chair? Please, we can take our seats. Thank you. Good morning, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends of the EJS Center. My name is Christopher Ifeanyiwanze, and I'm the Director of Strategic Research and Communications at the EJS Center. And it's a pleasure to be with you and to welcome you all to the Ford Foundation today and to have you here be a part of an important conversation that we're going to be having this morning. Again, let me just start by apologizing for the late delay. Again, they were due to unforeseen circumstances, but again, we're happy to have those of you that were able to make it into the room. We're honored to have in our midst leaders and change makers from across the continent and beyond, including Her Excellency, former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf from Liberia, Her Excellency, former President Sahle-Work Zewde from Ethiopia, our board chair, Madam Monica Gangos, former First Lady of Namibia, and of course, the Honorable Minister of Environment of Guinea, and two of our inspiring Amuje leaders here with us today. Your presence speaks to the importance of the dialogue and to the urgency of ensuring women's full participation in leadership on our beautiful continent. Our discussions today will spotlight not only the progress that has been made, but also the barriers that remain, and most importantly, the power of partnerships, resources, and evidence as we work towards advancing the Center's Gap Zero agenda. Without further ado, it's my honor to invite our Executive Director, Ms. Ellen Pratt, to deliver her opening remarks and set the tone for the conversations and discussions we'll be having today. Thank you, and welcome once again.
Thank you, Chris, and good morning to everyone. To our excellencies, thank you for being here. I will stand on all protocols already observed because we are far behind time. I had beautiful and very long remarks prepared. We will shorten that significantly, but I want to say on behalf of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Presidential Center for Women and Development, we are just so pleased that you have honored our invitation to this side event on the margins of UNGA 80. We are grateful and excited to be here this morning for a shared purpose, to confront the stubborn realities of gender disparity in leadership and to push together towards the goal we've called Gap Zero, a future where there is no gender gap in public leadership. Across Africa, as in other regions of the world, women continue to make up only a fraction of those positions of authority. 1 in 4 parliamentarians, 1 in 5 ministers, 1 in 5 judges. And too often, we are assigned to the soft portfolios: social welfare, gender. When women do succeed in breaking into these other spaces, they are frequently isolated, under-supported, and confronted with high barriers to delivering policies that truly change lives. We at the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf Center believe that with 3 cardinal areas, we can frame today's conversation: partnership and collaboration, knowing that no single institute or sector can close the gap alone. Resource allocation. We must invest differently, think differently, target mentoring, training programs, and networks. And evidence utilization. The data is there. The data has shown that when women lead, lives are transformed. We do things differently. But today is not just about our panelists, and we are excited for the cadre of panelists that we have, and we thank you, or the organizations that convene this. It is about each and every one of us. This side event is not a conclusion of a conversation, but rather a continuum. At the center, we are committing to deepening the evidence base, amplifying women's voices, and building coalitions that will sustain this progress. So let us begin this morning with a sense of urgency, but also of possibilities. Let us listen deeply, speak frankly, and leave here with a renewed resolve. So once again, on behalf of founder and chair emeritus, our board chair, all of the staff of the EJS Center who are here, to all of our friends, we thank you for joining us and for standing with us in this journey towards Gap Zero. Thank you, and God bless you. Yes, I have the distinct honor of introducing our board chair, Madam Monica Gengos, Her Excellency, the third First Lady of Namibia, who I am so inspired to be a part of this journey with. She has truly been a support to Madam Sirleaf, to all of us at the center, and to women globally. It was almost paparazzi when she walked in here. So, Monica, you are loved. We thank you for your journey, your fight, which is a clear example that we can do anything. So thank you so much. I look forward to joining the stage. And ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellency, Madam Monica Gengos.
Thank you very much. Fine, I think I've got it on now. When you said board chair, I was thinking that EJS would acknowledge that she's been called, and I remembered it's me. And it's such a privilege to be board chair, and I've never told her this, but the reason that I wanted or agreed to be board chair, and by the way, I was never asked. I was told you are going to be board chair. But the reason I didn't say no is President Sirleaf's presidency places a responsibility on all of us to make sure it's not forgotten and make sure that the lessons are so entrenched that it filters down to everybody else. And what she's done is she's built an incredible network of African leaders, a sisterhood, if you may. And one of her sisters sitting next to her, the former president of Ethiopia, one thing I love about the two of them is how supportive they are, because it frustrates me immensely when I'm at women's conferences. And the one thing all of us want to be so hasty in talking about is how women pull each other down. I've got news for you. Men are experts at this. Politics and business is male-dominated. So if anyone's pulling each other down, it's there. But we specialize in genderizing it. It's not my experience. What I'm seeing is incredible support in the Amuje sisterhood, in all of the women who are supporting the legacy and the work that has been done by President Sirleaf. And I want to thank each one of you for being part of that sisterhood, part of that community that understands that we must individualize this legacy and extend it to everybody else. So I want to thank the both of you. I also had the distinct pleasure of watching President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah deliver her maiden address to the United Nations on Wednesday. And I made a point of going to watch it because it was historic for us. When we're speaking about Gap Zero and the lack of female representation in the public space, I can wave to you from the promised land. We have a democratically elected female president who went through primaries, who went through national campaign, who had a long career, wasn't parachuted in, worked her way up, very much like the two presidents sitting in front of me. We have 58% female representation in cabinet. We're not doing so great in parliament, but there's a reason. We have all of the legislation, policy, and constitutional framework that you can possibly imagine. So if there's a country doing exceptionally well when it comes to reaching gender parity, it's Namibia. We are number one. It used to be Rwanda. But we, 2 years ago, exceeded Rwanda. Before President Netumbo took office. Sounds like perfection. When you look at our social indicators, we've got high infant and maternal mortality. We've got regions in our country where teenage pregnancy, where 39% of our 16 to 19-year-olds have a baby. high levels of sexual violence, high levels of gender-based violence. What we're seeing with our university graduation rates, some universities, including our national university, up to 70% female graduation. But what we're also seeing is our gender-based violence statistics are going. They're going up. What we're seeing in the political party is we're seeing pushback of the 58% of first female president, vice president is female. And may I interrupt myself? We've had a male president and a male vice president. It was never a problem, but it's deeply problematic now. Speaker of Parliament is woman. There's a pushback. So a lesson maybe the Promised Land can teach you is changing mindsets is as important as changing laws, as changing policies, and changing positions in power, because what we should be afraid of is something this country saw when there was a minority appointed as president and the opposite became president after him. That was part of the backlash, the racism, the rejection of that presidency. What we're seeing today is a big reaction to a president who was different. So we must manage the pushback. We must bring men along. We must manage the mindsets, but we must also watch our statistics on gender-based violence. We mustn't be scared of topics like sexual health and reproductive rights, because this is all part of it. We mustn't be afraid of dealing with the GBV, sexual violence, issues around unintended pregnancies of adolescent girls and young women, around HIV, because these are all the indicators that have to work as a collective. It's not just public representation of women. It's at all levels of society, including in the private sector, including in the home, including in every single space. So I really just wanted to say that before I call up President Saliwag to come and join me as part of this conversation, and it really will be a conversation. Please do join me, President Wag. Yes, please. So you'll never see her without a notebook. And I want to start this session by really acknowledging an iconic leader, somebody who worked her way to the top, a seasoned diplomat in multilateral institutions, somebody who was so respected that when my president saw your unanimous vote in parliament to become the president of Ethiopia, he was excited. And he said, I know her, everybody knows her. So you brought exceptional credibility to the role of president of Ethiopia, historic because it was the first female president of Ethiopia. And I often wonder, because I've seen from the outside and from up front that there are unseen obstacles that don't make it to these reports that women face. And given your long career, I wonder if there were obstacles that look similar when you started, when you were in the middle, when you started getting to the top, and once you became president. Were there obstacles that kind of looked and felt similar throughout your very long and distinguished career?
Thank you very much, Monica, President Sirleaf, and dear participants. I'm known for having developed some kind of a phobia of interviews and this kind of settings. But the more I get older and the more I progress in my career, I said to myself, if we don't speak, who else would speak on my behalf? And especially about me. If it's not me, it will be definitely distorted. So I'm really happy to be sitting here with you. And I would like to say one word about you. When I first saw you, I was in Nairobi, heading a UN headquarters. She came to deliver an amazing speech and asked, who is this lady? They told me the first lady of Namibia. Okay. And I kept on asking, because the idea we have about a first lady is that woman behind the president, following him every day. But I was in front of me an accomplished person. If you don't know that she was a first lady, you know that she's somebody really very important. And that's why I would like to say that we might walk next to someone without knowing, and you miss an opportunity. So I'm really happy to be here. Challenges. Honestly speaking, you have challenges at every level. From a young diplomat that I have been to the post of president, I cannot say there is any instance where I have not encountered challenges. They might be different in nature, but challenges they are. The problem, maybe, the particularity with me is that I have been all the way the first person to do all the jobs that I have done, except being an ambassador. The first female ambassador of Ethiopia was appointed by our late Emperor Haile Selassie, so it's many decades ago. But then I was the second, but the rest have always been the first. So people were not very receptive or accommodative of that situation, especially when you go up on the ladder. To have people respect that position as they would have respected my predecessor, a male, is very challenging. But at the same time, I must say I was the one who was hesitating not to take that position because of those challenges. For instance, when I was asked to be ambassador, I said, would I be able to do it? And when I was sent to Nairobi, to Djibouti, where I stayed 10 years of my life, and it was the most challenging position, I have to talk about myself. If it was not me, I think we would have had many issues with the neighbors, because we bring a different perspective in what we do, a different way of looking at things, and so on. As a president, one would think that we have everything and everything is rosy and so on. It is not. It's not. We fight every single day. The other day, when I was in office, I was in France, a country which can talk for days about protocol, that they have invented protocol. But I was made to sit somewhere, and when our ambassador protested, she said, the answer was, but we thought she was the wife of, she was the first lady of someone else. So, you know, you face, but this is just a protocol glitch. But otherwise, in doing your job, men are better listened to than women. But what I say is that I fought. I never accepted those situations. I fought. I failed. I got up again, fought again, until the end. And this is what we should be really doing. If we think that there is a situation where everything will be rosy, I don't think it exists, honestly speaking. And even when giving our opinion and so on, the other one, a few minutes later, would say exactly the same thing, and there's a reaction to say, oh, what an idea, and so on. I say, wait a minute, have I not noticed this earlier? They make you feel that it's not there yet, you know. But we will have to move from being an exception to being a normal situation, not only as a president, but at every level. When I was appointed the first time, I was 38, ambassador to Senegal and to all neighboring countries. That embassy had 4 female diplomats of a lower rank. I immediately wrote, it's not even called, wrote to the ministry to say, send a man here. Mm-hmm. If we fail, we will close the doors to other women who would follow us. I might fail, but I don't want an all-women embassy, nor do I want an all-men. So they were surprised, they changed it, and we moved on.
So it's really about keeping a balance,
Yes.
and knowing that there'll be challenges regardless. Something I've certainly seen after having been close to a State House for some time is that there's a day one of inauguration. You get saluted by your ADC. You literally change houses. You go live in state accommodation. Things change. People also change towards you. It becomes Your Excellency. It becomes you're the best person in the world. And often I've noticed people struggle to separate that people worship the position and not the person. And they are very shocked when they leave office and people change back and they follow the next position holder. And I want to ask you about your day after. Not the day of, the day after you were no longer the president of Ethiopia. How did that look like? How did that feel like? Do people still answer your calls?
No. No. I mean, that's a pity. And should I lie to you? No, I don't want to lie. I mean, it changes completely. It's as if you have never been there after 6 years. And being a normal former high official, it's okay. But even that one doesn't exist. So people change as soon as there is somebody. I've been replaced by a male, and the situation, I think, is different. Went back to where it was. But when I was in office, I always thought of the day after. So, for instance, I used to do things that no other holder of that position would do. I go to people, I go to funerals, to weddings, I go shopping myself, I drive, and so on, just to show that we have to simplify this role and be closer to the people, and that's where you gain respect. And I think Ethiopians have appreciated that. I see it every single day when I meet people. The fact that there was a woman already within the population has made a difference. They have more confidence that maybe a young girl one day would also reach there. But it changes, and that one, I would say it's okay. But even people you thought well, change. And that is the most dramatic part. I mean, it used to be also person-to-person relations, that just a functional relation which stops when everything is over. But one has to get prepared. It's not only for president, for any position. Going back can be difficult. It has not been for me, but I have noted all that. But for me, I have always had a simple life. I continue that one.
And I appreciate your candor, because one of the things that I've seen in people who were in office, who are no longer in office, and they look at how things have changed, they become quite angry that after the price I paid to be in public office, and now I don't exist anymore, because you make incredible sacrifices to your family, you make sacrifices to your finances, you make sacrifices to actually your mental health because of what you go through. And you must know, all of you, many of you in this room are aspiring politicians, at the end of it, you really only have to remember what your impact was. And I think the only reason we're hearing the response you gave is because you made impact. You made exceptional impact in the very particular way that Ethiopia has a president and a prime minister. And I'm always curious, how did you leave with such impact? What is it that did you have a plan on day one that this is what I want to do by the time that I leave? What was the game plan there? What advice would you give to those sitting in the room of how, when they go into their day one, whether it's as a minister, whether it's as a parliamentarian, what should they be thinking about from day one in preparation for the day after?
I think in all what I have done, I always go back, I mean, before the presidency, because one has to also know that if you are elected to this position, it means that you stand on your records and you had past life that we tend to forget. 6 years is a big chapter, of course, of my life, but it's not all my life. I'm sorry. What I went through is really what I want people to also remember. And that's why we have to tell the younger generation that records are very important. You have to work, you have to make yourself known, and so on and so forth. I had a dream job. I was with the UN. I was appointed a special representative to the African Union. And after 3 months, I found myself as a president. Unfortunately, my previous job was in Addis Ababa, so I was visible. I was called to be a man. I had 5 days to decide. So the speech, which was prepared for me, doesn't look like me at all. So I had the night before to write my own. And I made a speech which lasted like 18 minutes or so. And I mentioned the word peace and women in equal terms. It was not calculated, 25 times. So it was very clear from day one that my 2 priorities would be peace. And we had some issues on peace, which was not what we saw later at that magnitude. But I said this is what we should be doing, and on women, empowerment of women, but also the role of women in peace and security. And I have worked a lot on that. And I thought that, we have to help others be empowered. So what I did to make sure that the lower level leaders can also be, we have trained hundreds of them from all over the country, mentorship programs in universities and so on, has helped me create this group of people that are emulating others. In fact, if God gives me more days, weeks, years, I would like to continue in that. So every single day, my worry was, would I have time to make more impact? Would I be able to train more? And would I be able to support more? And I think I did. It's very important to think from day one what you are going to leave, how you are going to be remembered. So now all these are a pool of people who appreciate what I have done. But honestly speaking, I have to thank my fellow Ethiopians, but not only. I mean, I'm very much African at heart. For me, it's Africans are showing me that the impact has, and Ethiopians, of course, has been very important. I hope we will not slide back, but we will continue the same path.
Just talking of sliding back, if you look at SDG 5, which is about gender equality, it's one, so the SDGs are behind, but the one that's stagnating is gender equality. So we are seeing a sliding back. We're seeing some alarming language, violent language towards women and women's issues. And when we talk about Gap Zero, we also know it's going to take us 130 years at this pace. And because the pace is slowing down, it could take us longer. What would you say governments need to do beyond the rhetoric? How do we scale and speeden up getting to Gap Zero?
Yes, it's a worrying trend that we're not moving, but not totally surprising, given the when you see where we are coming from. Gap Zero, we should move very strongly on that. But I think governments have a big role to play beyond tokenism, appointing women because we need this number of women without really giving the conducive conditions for that woman to succeed. Although they have the keys to legislate, to have policies, and even review any constitutional provision that will, contribute to this kind of pushback that we see. I think they have a big role. Unfortunately, when I look at things, it's the measures that we take are just for the moment, for those in power to be seen like having done something. Oh, we have this percent of MPs, this percent. But when you look closely, that 50% or so many percent of cabinet members are no more there. It has, in all statistics we have going back. So they have that. We have to refuse this kind of way of doing things that you bring people just to have a representation of women in that room, and whereas nothing is taken into consideration for what is the best for them. So we need real representations, women at key positions, and government beyond this kind of arithmetic calculation saying we have this and this, should have it, solidly enshrined in the documents, the legal systems and so on that we have. That will be, I think, one of the protections that we can have. But we have definitely to reduce the gap, otherwise we'll be staying on the same situation.
I must disclose my interests. I'm not interviewing President Saliwok as an objective interviewer. I love her. I really adore her. I've bought into everything she represents. The only time we had a problem in our relationship is when she sent my husband a big pallet of red roses. And I said to my husband, but what is this now? And these are, I'm taking these to my campus because she's my friend. So my husband said, no, I know her longer than you know her. I know her before you were born. So I took the flowers and I said to her, don't send my husband red roses again. But the empathy and the warmth and sincerity with which she deals with other women. You see women leaders, you admire them, you go to them, and there's a coldness. There's just something you can't put your finger on, and then you realize the persona and the person, there's a disconnect, and I'm not connecting with this person. And that's not President Saliwok at all. It's not President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. They've created an enabling environment, especially for younger women, with a laser focus of building this pipeline. We see it with President Sirleaf's absolute commitment to the Amujay sisterhood, from whom I know more than one female president will come from. And we've seen it with you, how you deal with a younger generation of women wanting to go into public office. I think you give so much of yourself, of your time, of your sincerity, of your honesty in conversations. And I want to know from you, how do we scale what you and President Sirleaf do? How do we build a stronger pipeline? Because there must be a pipeline from where women leaders are being developed. How do we scale this? How do we do more of what you are doing in terms of developing younger female leaders? And how do we make sure that older women who've been in the system longer also tap into this intergenerational cooperation?
Yeah. Thank you. But I have to react to these red roses, maybe.
I want you to slip it in there and get away with it.
My dear brother Hagi, that we miss so much. I heard that he was not feeling well. So I asked our horticulture organization to send this amount of flowers to the president of Namibia on the next flight, which they did. But I realized that they were red when Monica sent me pictures. I said, oops. And I'm French educated. I mean, I cannot evade from that. I know what it means. And she said, it's in my center. I said, okay. So it's no more. I would have preferred the president to tell me, but it's Monica telling me now, you send red flowers to my husband. And I took them all. But that was really the beauty of being close. The question was?
Mentorship, this
Mentorship, yes.
intergenerational.
That's very important. What my sister, President Sirleaf, is doing is amazing. I have been to Liberia to see. I've been following and follow even closely now. When I was first appointed president, in embassies, it's sometimes difficult because you don't have many Ethiopians to train. But I immediately instructed my office to write to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and to give me 2, 3, I don't know, whatever number of young female diplomats that I can train while working. So they will travel with me, they will go with me. And in fact, we were in Switzerland last year, and when they told me who would accompany me at the luncheon offered by the president, I said that trainee will be with me. So she attended, and on her way out, she said, you can't imagine what you are giving me as an exposure in this regard. Mentorship is absolutely important. I have been doing it in universities, and I saw how it has changed. Even now, I have a protocol officer who has never been in protocol. The ministry gave it to my dear friend, don't worry, I'll train you. So you learn as you work. We need to have that instinct to see who is next to me or behind me so that I can train them. At the United Nations and under President Sirleaf's control, because she has been a high official of the UN, as you all know, but when I was asked to head the Nairobi office, it's the only one in the Global South, I immediately called the head of the different offices, country offices, global programs and so on, women, those were the female, and said we have to establish a mentorship program. We know what it means, interviews. We know what they will be asked. We have to present candidates, help them to be prepared for interviews and so on. The tendency is I struggled to get where I am, and it's okay. But if you don't support the others, your position will be also absolutely shaky. So we managed to do that. But it doesn't come so easily because we are so vulnerable in our own positions that we don't even have time to think about the others. But if you don't think about themselves, yours will definitely go back, or we will have more to do to get where we want to be. It's a never-ending struggle, but we will have to continue. I truly believe in mentorship. My plan is, if I manage to have my foundation, to have membership as a national program to stand alone. We really need to do that, tutorial at universities and so on. In Ethiopia, it's very dramatic at the university level. So without education, we cannot go far. We will need to do that. So, yeah.
I think it's just been an exceptional privilege for me. I don't agree to facilitate conversations easily, but for you, I didn't
I know.
argue at all. So thank you very much, Madam President. It's been an absolute honor.
Thank you so much. I accepted because it was you, and I said, is it Monica who is going to grill me? Thank you very much for the questions, but I never thought that you would make public that I sent roses to you. Thank you so much.
Another clap for this.
She comes from a home of strong women. The women are focused. They don't allow things to distract them as they are moving towards their objective.
From very, very early on, Zanetta knew that she had a role to play and she had a responsibility.
Zanetta's leadership journey started from her home. In Wesley Girls, we took care of our spaces ourselves. Each girl would be allocated a space. For some reason, Zanetta frequented the gutters. There were times when we needed to use toothbrushes, and you would see Zanetta doing her thing because she wanted the perfection herself.
She learned to jump out of a plane. She did daring things, tongue in cheek. Jerry Rawlings treated her very much like the first son that he would have loved.
I was the DIY person in the house when we were kids.
Wow, I thought the trailer was still going on. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I have the hard task to follow what has just happened here. I'm still taking it all in. I'm glad that we are attending this event at the end of so many hectic events, and yet this has been so refueling, I hope for everyone, as it has been for me. We've been hearing the same rhetoric, but this was just really, really intimate. So my name is Eunice Musime. I'm the Executive Director of Akina Mama wa Africa, and I have the distinguished honor to facilitate a panel of eminent women. I'm going to kindly request you to join me on the podium. Dr. Zanetta, please. Minister Jamil and Chipota. Yes, Chipo. Okay, great. Feel free, there's no protocols here. Yes, so ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to follow on the intimate conversation and just request our panelists who are going to speak to some of the issues that have already been raised, drawing from their own lived experiences, their own unique realities. And as you can see, it's also a panel of young women who have been part of the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf in different ways. So without much ado, because we're running short of time, I'll just get right into it. I would like you to start off by introducing yourselves, speak with your own voice, speak for yourself. So you use the microphones, and then I'll come back with one question for each. So I would like to self-introduction. Yes.
All right. Hello, everyone, Your Excellencies. I'm very happy to be here among everybody here. I'm not part of the EJS Center. I hope to be. I was introduced to the organization by one of my big sisters, Malado Kaba, former Minister of Finance of Guinea, first woman to hold the position in Guinea. My name is Jami Diallo. I'm the Minister for Environment and Sustainable Development of Guinea. I've been holding the position since last year in March 2024. And I'm a lawyer by training before moving back to Guinea in 2017, working at the presidency office. I was working here in New York as a lawyer, working on project finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chipo?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chipo Mwanawasa. I'm Chipokota Mwanawasa, but most people just call me Chipo. I'm the policy advisor to the president of Zambia, and I also double held a role as deputy head of the presidential delivery unit for the first 2 years of its introduction in Zambia. And I've been an Amuje leader for close to 3 years now, so I'm one of Madam's fortunate girls. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Excellencies. It's a real honor to be here. My name is Zanetta Ajiman Rawlings, medical doctor by training, member of parliament now in my 3rd term. I'm currently chairing the Committee on Security and Intelligence, and I'd like to proudly count myself amongst the firstborns of the EJS, EJS Center. So I'm part of the first cohort from the Amuje Sisterhood. And I think we just barely managed to avoid getting locked out of our own countries because COVID had just started around the time when we finished the first meeting in Monrovia. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll start with you, Doctor. Yes, spoiler alert, we'll be watching the documentary later on, but for now, would like you to speak to, you've run for Member of Parliament 3 times and won. In what ways have you leveraged partnerships and collaborations to advance women's rights, gender equality, social transformation?
Thank you. Yes, three general elections and 3 internal elections, all of which were extremely tough. I had the unique pleasure of having a bit of internal resistance from within my own party sometimes, where I had some executives who would still work against me. But I think the main thing was not riding on past glories or thinking the name was enough or thinking my background was enough, but actually getting down to the ground and understanding my people, their needs, the landscape I was dealing with, and then coming up with a strategy that aligned with my beliefs, with what I was passionate about and what I felt I could generally do without moving out of alignment with who I am. And I think that in listening to the wonderful, intimate conversation we first had, that reality of remaining grounded and remembering you're not the position. And so you must always remember that fact, you know, and be true to who you are. And I think that was key. There's something about the political landscape where it's very easy to get caught up in your own hype, and it's easy to get swept away in the temptation to give into the populism. And that is a wave that comes and goes, but ultimately, people always have a sense for authenticity. And I'm a keen believer in that, and I have to admit that I believe in God, and I try to let my beliefs come through in how I do my politics, and I think that ultimately that served me well, because at a point, who your parents are doesn't matter. Your previous accomplishments may not matter. People need to they need to get a sense of who you are and understand that you see them as well. And I think for me that was one of the important things, and being able to publicly and privately admit when you don't know and be willing to ask for support in terms of collaboration of the people you're with. Nobody's too big or too small to be able to offer a little bit of advice that can make any solution better. And I think those were some of the things that helped me in terms of being able to ask for help, being able to admit not knowing, and the willingness to be honest even when people didn't want to hear the truth. There's a gentle way to tell the truth, but ultimately I think integrity matters. And your integrity must be the thing that should go through from beginning to end. Because when the position goes, your integrity should be intact. And I try to live by that. So I don't know if that helps.
It does. So your name doesn't matter. You must go beyond that. Your previous glories don't matter. It's your values that will make you stand. I take that away. Thank you so much, Doctor. We'll move on to Chipo. Chipo, as a young leader, please share with us what motivated you to join public leadership, but then also what we need to do more of for young leaders to ensure that they don't only access positions of leadership or public leadership, but they actually thrive. Please share with us.
Thank you very much. I think the short answer to that question is that I just got tired of passing on the responsibility of who's going to make the country go to greater heights. You know, so as a young person, I was like, oh, they are going to go and vote. You know, and I would say, why did they vote like that? Or why are the leaders making decisions like this? But then I asked myself, but what am I doing myself to contribute to that narrative or to change the tide of the country? So very, very young and naive, I decided to volunteer for the current president of Zambia. I joined him very young, almost 10 years before he won the election. So he ran 5 elections. I did 3 of those with him when people actually didn't believe in him and they didn't believe he could win. I believed, and the reason I chose to go with him was based on what we're already talking about. I identified with the values. You know, I was inspired by what he was doing as an individual in the private sector before he came into office. And fortunately, I took myself there and I was accommodated as a volunteer. So to your next question is, what do we need to do more to encourage young people, especially young women? I think that the thing there we should think about as young people and those who are even younger than me is that you might not necessarily get an invitation to the table. You need to put yourself forward, and you need to be ready to do some of the jobs that other people won't be willing to do. So when I joined very young, I did all sorts of things, from making coffees and teas for people in the campaign center. I became the note taker. Very quickly, I became a pair of trusted hands, you know, dealing with campaign funds, retiring them correctly. And before you know it, you realize that if there's one person who knows what is happening anywhere, it's Chipo. Just find Chipo. And you think you're doing all the dirty work, but you're actually the one who actually knows everything and just supporting all the leaders run the show, from logistics, you know. And in doing all these elections and that experience, I also realized the gaps we had as a political party and as a political team supporting this president. It then inspired me to go and pursue a second master's. So I went to study public policy at the London School of Economics deliberately because I thought we had a gap in terms of how we were drawing the manifesto, what policies we were communicating that we would bring to the table once we won the election, and the how of how we would do this. So I quickly scanned what did I need to study. My mother was tired of sponsoring me. She said she had other children, so I applied for a scholarship. You know, I applied for a scholarship, and I told the campaign manager then and the president that when I come back, I'm coming back to play a different role because I'll have different skills. So I put myself forward. So even as we are grateful. And yes, there will be those platforms which I'm very privileged, and I can talk about, the mentorship forums and platforms, and they're very important because that's a sounding board for continued learning. But young people, especially young women, should gather the courage and put themselves forward. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. If there's no seat at the table, pull your own and sit right there.
Carry us too.
Yeah. Carry us too. Thank you so much. That's such a perfect segue into the question that I'm going to ask Minister Jamil. What are some of those legal and policy frameworks that you see we could leverage to close the gap in public leadership for women?
Thank you very much. So I think across Africa, we have strong commitments to gender equality. We have quota laws in the Francophone countries. We have gender mainstreaming in the Anglophone systems. But we are not sharing these lessons across linguistic and legal divides. So I think there needs to be more work there. We need to learn from each other. So regional mentoring programs, for instance, are tools that we can leverage to ensure that we share the lessons learned in order to improve on that. When it comes to quota laws that we have in Guinea, for instance, we are actually facing difficulties in translating them into binding, enforceable mechanisms. So I think there needs to be work there to ensure that we have clear accountability and that these legal frameworks actually translate in practice. And finally, we need to talk about, I think, legal frameworks around family-friendly policies, because it's not only about getting women into leadership roles, but it's also about making sure that they stay there. And for that, we do need to find mechanisms, legal mechanisms that are family-friendly, because those are real issues that women do face. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Great. So I'm going to go back to you, Doctor. This is the final round of conversation. So I'm going to ask all three of you to look into the room and share with us, challenge us in this room, what can we do to do our part to ensure that we close the gap on gender equality in public leadership. So we'll start with you, Doctor.
Thank you. This is probably not politically correct, but I just feel the need to say this. I don't know whether when we keep saying the gender gap, it's an issue where women are being sidelined, excluded. I really want to say women, to be quite honest, because when I think about the issue of gender versus women, my life has been about more or less breaking gender stereotypes. So for me, the reality of what we go through as women in public service, women in politics, is specifically women targeted. So I will, break away from the use of gender for today and talk about women because, I think, Chipo, you get me on this one. We prefer wearing trousers and trainers. If I could wear trainers and jeans to Parliament, I would, because that's what I'm comfortable in. I prefer to wear trousers and jeans as a child, and it hasn't changed. It was used against me at a point in my campaign. I'm pragmatic. If I am going round from one community to the next, I can't wear high heels. I was complaining about walking one block over here because I'm in short heels, when it comes to fixing things, I have a knack for doing that. One of my favorite hobbies in primary school was carpentry. I still want to have a carpentry shop when I grow up, And so I feel that in trying to be politically correct, we keep using gender, and it's not helping the reality of what we are going through as women. And it's not helping our girls, because the use of gender almost sanitizes the the real grimy situation that we're facing, and we can't get away from it by not calling it a spade, because that's what it is. So I will use the word women, and that's why I'm very happy about the AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, because it calls it. You know, and when I think I was privileged to attend a conference where Madam was present, and that was the positive masculinity. You see, we have to start getting our minds clear on what is the actual issue, the elephant in the room. And for me, I would say that as we leave, we need to identify our male champions, because all we're looking for is fairness. We're looking for, well, equity for now, but equality is what we're looking for. Justice for women and girls. So I think we have to find our male champions. We also need to identify young women who are ready and understand the vision and are willing to be on board as, you know, warriors and diplomats and team leaders. We need to make sure we have elders, both men and women, who understand the importance of what we're doing, because it builds on their legacy, and it's the seed that becomes the tree that gives tangibility to all the efforts of their sweat before. And then we also need to be clear on what our creed is, you know, and make it something that is accessible to other people. Because if your creed is so high up in the mountains that it's abstract and people can't relate to it, then you can't bring that change of mindset. So a breakdown in what your creed is, so people know how to become part of that, is how you bring that change along. So little flags along the way instead of this big flagpole up in the sky. And then finally, I would probably say to find your niche, but don't restrict yourself. Don't dim your light, because you've realized that when people saw you, you became a threat to some people. The minute you start to dim your light is the minute you start to disempower yourself. Shine brightly, and well, as it's coming, if the enemies are seeing your light bright, your friends will see the light bright too. But if you dim it and you've already been spotted, you're on your own. So let's not try to do it on our own. Let's not dim our light. Let's shine as brightly as we can, and let's fill the room and bring others along with us. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Doctor. Next, Chipo, same question to you. What challenge would you give us in the room that would help us close the gap on women's leadership?
So I think it's already been said, but let's see if I can pull it together differently. Zenata spoke about the sincerity in what we do as leaders. And I just want to pick on that in carrying younger people along, whether male or female, but particularly young women in this case, is very important, even if we don't live to see what they become. Because then we're doing it from a genuine, sincere place. I can tell you and attest from my own journey that I'm not sitting here because I am self-made. I've had a lot of support and encouragement, people pulling me along. And even just this week, I said, I don't want to do this, you know, but somebody encouraged me. And this is the Amuje platform that we belong to, that you have a village, you know, where you get mentorship, support, not only from your own peers, but how privileged that we've had presidents like yourselves, madam, that have been there before us, you know, that we can ask, sound off, and you're doing it from a sincere place. You don't owe us anything, you know, and I think ourselves also, who are privileged to be in these positions, the challenge is we have to carry other people behind us. We have to carry other young women behind us, even if it just means that we're breaking, smashing further that glass ceiling, that it may be easier for them when they get to where we are now. And I often say that the younger generations coming behind me will not forgive me if I give up, you know, that I didn't, you know, push the needle a bit further. So we may never even see everything for the work that we're doing now. So it's from a sincere perspective. But in that space is accommodating and creating those spaces for mentorship. So again, I'm privileged that when I went to volunteer for this political party, they allowed me to. You know, they could have said, there's no room here, go away. I didn't know the president. If anything, he was from an opposition political party, from the one my family is associated to. They could have chased me, but they allowed, you know, and very often when you put yourself forward, sometimes you think people will say no, but they're actually very happy to have an extra pair of hands, especially with young people, because you're not yet set in your ways, so you can learn. So I think for us who are privileged to be in our positions is to create that space to carry other young people and also keep pushing and moving that needle further so that those coming behind us can have it easier. So I think the challenge to us is how many younger people, you know, are we carrying along behind us? Even as we inspire, even as we achieve higher heights, what are we doing to actually make sure those spaces are being opened up for more women, you know, to also be part of the governance and leadership system, both at local community level, regional level, continental level, and even global level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And finally, Minister Jamil.
Thank you. The biggest challenge that I have faced, and it's something that President Saleh mentioned, is not to be taken seriously because you are a woman, because of your gender. But the way I've dealt with it is you shouldn't let it stop you because they don't know who you are. You need to be very focused on your work. I think that's very important for women when we talk about capacity building. That's the way really to break to fill the gender gap. Chipo mentioned it. She went and got another degree. I think that's how we make sure that we move forward, despite the stereotypes that we are facing. A few years back, when I was making the decision to leave New York and go back to Guinea, I spoke with a sister of mine, a big sister of mine, who has been mentoring me, and I asked her what she thought. She said, "Well, you know, just make sure that you are always technically good. You are." Because I was making the decision of leaving the private sector and go into a public service. She says, make sure you are always good at your job. You do your job well. Because there is this stereotype that in Africa, I know it's the case in Guinea, where working for the government, being in public service, it's about your connections. It's about, it's not about your competence. It's about politics. It's somehow true, but it's not always the case. They do need people who know how to work also. So make sure you are that person. She mentioned that earlier, and that's I think that's very helpful when you make sure you focus on your work. Sometimes it doesn't matter that you are a woman. They do need people who work. Yeah, thank you.
Wow, sometimes it doesn't matter that you're a woman or a young woman at that. Wow, so inspired by this panel. Thank you so much for sharing from your deep lived experience. I know the whole week we've been listening to the macro level, so we felt that we needed to hear the real stories, the hard stories that truly matter. And I'll just share my takeaways and close here. One of the things that has come through is that imposter syndrome is still very real. Research shows that for women, we often have to be convinced to take up leadership. But I'm glad, Madam, that you were not asked. So we need to stop asking women. We need to say, come on, become the board chairperson, because otherwise it will take a while. Personally, it took me 5 months to accept to become the executive director of Akina Mama Africa. I was also saying, no, I can't do it. So thank you, Madam, for sharing that. And this week, what has come through in the different conversations we've had is that, yes, 50-50 is important, but it's also important to build the critical mass of women who have clarity, who have courage, and who have conviction to change the trajectory. So yes, 50-50, the numbers are important, representation is important, but let's also build that critical mass of women who are going to change, like Minister Jamil has just said. The other thing that has come out clearly is that we really need to continue changing mindsets. Yes, I know the he for she campaign is important, the male champions, bring them along, but sometimes these men say things and we are also in utter shock. We're like, yes, you're male champions, you are our men, you're our fathers, all that, but please, this mindset needs to change. And the backlash is simply coming from that. So we need to work on that. And then lastly, I'll just say, the younger generation, they will do the hard work. That is important, but they also want to see the change right now. They're not going to wait too long. They want to see real change happening now. So that's a challenge for all of us in this room. So I will end here. The organization I serve at, Akina Mama Africa, has done feminist leadership development for 30 years. And yes, we celebrate the numbers, but now we are beginning to think and say, what else do we need to do to ensure that these women go into these spaces and actually thrive? So we realize that we're doing a lot of fixing the woman and not fixing the system. So we now need to invest more in ensuring that we also fix this system that really excludes women, that makes it hard for women, that breaks us down, and we then have to see so many therapists. We don't need to do that anymore. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed the panel. We were simply building on the earlier panel. Over to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you, Eunice, and thank you to our distinguished panel. Please, can we give them a round of applause one more time? Madam, would you like to share some words of reflection before we wrap up? I have a mic for you. And you can do it right from there.
Can I just do it right here?
Yes, you can.
Okay. First of all, let me say thank you with great appreciation to all of you who have managed to go through the traffic to come here. As one navigates in the circle of life, there's always someone who stands out. And so let me thank our two prime people who sat for the interviews, President Sally Walk, Swedi, Monica Jingos, because they stood out. I recall Sally as she carried out the functions of an executive at the United Nations and was finally elected by the Parliament of Ethiopia to become the president, that we all said, a breath of fresh air. We can all rest that we're going to see Ethiopia just moving on along its course to achieve its national goals. And when we sat through the meeting with Monica, she said she didn't request the position. She's absolutely right. Did anyone dare to say no. um, it just took a meeting to sit down and talk and just listen, you know. And I was glad to just take the baton and say, Madam, it's yours. The chair is yours because what you bring to it is something that's different, that's new, that brings knowledge, strength, and authority. There are very few people that can speak with authority, you know. And sometimes women are a little bit shy because they, they want to make sure they're accepted in every way. They don't want to stand out because, somebody will say, we're too aggressive. We keep saying, no, we're not aggressive. We're just affirmative, But Monica just fitted that position. And so, like I say, it was just my pleasure to ask her and to ask her, please stay long enough until we get that first breakthrough. That's what she doesn't want to hear.
I said 3 years.
And so when someone asks me at my closing statement, what drives you? What makes you at this age want to keep doing this? Can't you just go sit down? And I said, no, because the mission is not completed. So it took me almost 20 years to go to the second democratically elected one in Namibia. And then because of that, people say 130 years. That's the prediction, 130 years. But hey, these are changing times. And crises bring opportunities. And the opportunities now, the opportunities are ours. Because I look at these dynamic women. The few you saw here, and the many others that are not here. 1 or 2 other ones are here from the sisterhood of the Amoje initiative. But there are others among them. And we're waiting for that breakthrough, like you said. And don't tell me it's not going to come, because it's going to come. And I can look at several of them and say, when you least expect it, although they're going to go through a long process of campaigning, but when you don't expect it's going to happen, it was just like they didn't expect it to happen with me. As much as I have had a long journey, still they didn't expect it to happen. No, a woman can't do that. No, a woman can't do it. She shouldn't do it. Anyway, so thanks to all of you dynamic women. And I keep saying that, yes, we want to see one of you, please, in 5 years, we want to see 1 or 2 break through the glass ceiling and become president. But in the wave of leadership we're promoting, it's not just all presidents. We have the Ngosis and the Wangari, and the Benetta, who are blazing the path also. And so that wave that we're looking for is that we be able to find you sitting at the heat of authority and power in your country, but also at the seat of decision-making. Whether you're in an international organization, whether you're a mayor in your city, whether you head a minister where, like Shamputi, you can just say, I do everything, like she said. I'm ready to answer any questions. So thank you all for being here. Please just stay with us. Continue to be the partnership that we love so much. Work with us, console us, advise us, but best of all, support us. Thank you very much.
Madam just asked the right question. Who speaks after Madam President? No one. So, but I just have to say thank you. What a treat this has been. Please, a round of applause for all of our participants again. This is the power of women. We share our stories. This has been an intergenerational dialogue. We have heard from former presidents. We have heard from to-be presidents. We claim it, we say it. And we have they've shared stories. It's not always rosy, it's not always easy. And there's a vulnerability in being a strong woman. So we thank each and every one of you. Please let us continue the conversation. We have to get to our breakthrough. We have to show, the older ones are showing the younger ones that there is a road you will travel. And we see a sense of support that we cannot take for granted. So thank you on behalf of the center. This has been an extraordinary week. As we close out, we thank Madam President for being with us every step of the way. She was at CGI where we announced our commitment to action, $30 million to launch the African Women's House and our Amuje initiative. Yes, the center will build the first presidential center devoted and built for and by a woman leader in the world. Yes. The center will have 100 Amuje leaders spread over all 54 African countries within the next 5 years. Ladies, gentlemen, these are some of the most accomplished women in the world, and we are proud to call them ours. So once again, on behalf of the center, I would like the center staff to please stand. Chris, let's give him a round of applause. This has been an effort. Please, all of you you don't like to do this, but please stand so they can see that this has been a time and effort. Janelle, so thank you so much. President Saliwak, thank you for just the nuggets of wisdom. Monica, thank you so much. Ladies, thank you. God bless each and every one of you. Let's continue the dialogue. Thank you so much.